So I'm very happy to welcome everyone here today, those of you that are in person and also those of you that are online. This is a kind of a teaching day where we do basic introduction teaching so people can understand a little bit more what is Buddhism and how Buddhism is brought to our own life and how we can benefit from the benefits that are freely findable within the Buddhist tradition. And so many of you might have heard me teach on Sundays, and it's sort of similar all the time because I'm always trying to open the door and make it clear and understandable what, you walked into a room that's very odd and different. You see a strange woman speaking English when she should be speaking Portuguese, sitting on a funny chair, and there are all these things that are odd and different and can be off-putting in the beginning of things because it doesn't make so much sense. So I sympathize with that kind of. I would have had trouble as a beginner if I walked into a room like this. I would have thought, strange color patterns. I would have had an odd reaction to, statues and everybody sitting on the floor and one sort of strange person sitting on a platform. And I can understand. And there's right from the beginning, you leave your shoes outside. That's too much for some people right in the beginning. Just, what are we thinking? Are my shoes safe? Things like that. So I understand those are all can afford explanations. But they become more understandable when you understand a little bit more the heart of the Dharma, the heart of the purpose of the teacher and the teachings, and the heart of how it resonates with our own heart. And then it starts to become unique and interesting and an adventure to open and unfold and understand, like a rare flower you might find somewhere and not understand completely. But when you begin to watch it and observe it, you begin to see there's a great beauty there. So welcome, and I'll try to expose for you the beauty there. The flower that we use in the teachings for this metaphor is the lotus. Because the lotus it blooms on the surface of the water, but its roots are in the mud, down in the bottom of the pond. And this is, if you see in all the iconography of Buddhist art, there's always a lotus. And what that means for us is that there is something to bloom within us. And really that bloom comes from the matrix of the ordinariness of our life, the mud. At first you don't think the mud is very nice, it's kind of icky. None of us like too much the icky things of our life. We, always want everything to be nice, and we want everything to be happy, and we want everything to be good, but our life doesn't prove to be like that. We have conditions that affect us, like birth and sickness and aging and death. This is the mud at the bottom of the pond that is the ground of our everyday life, trying our best to be happy. And yet, we certainly have percentages. Even if we are able to be happy a little bit, it's impermanent and it's vulnerable. And most of the time, it isn't findable at all. Our life is just full of problems, one leading to another, to another, to another, like an old house. One problem after another, after another, after another. You finally fix the roof, and then it's the plumbing. You finally fix the plumbing, and then it's the walls that have to be stabilized. It's just endless like that. And so the mud, the basis, is something that all of us as ordinary people, we understand as the challenge of our day-to-day life, not being able to prevent suffering and really longing for and aspiring for and assuming we should be happy. We're supposed to be happy. Excuse me, who do I complain to? Because I'm supposed to be happy, and yet that's not really happening in a reliable manner. Because even what little happiness I do find is not able to sustain my needs. And so that is the basis. But out of that blooms a beautiful, pristine flower, not a tiny bit of dirt, not even the littlest bit of mud, nothing smelly going on there with that flower that blooms naturally on the surface of the pond. So Buddha and Bodhisattvas and the great masters use this example to explain that you have this unbelievable quality of brilliance and beauty and dignity that will bloom. But you have to understand how to utilize the life in such a way that it can open naturally in your life. And most of the time, not like the lotus, we're just trying to, kind of pick and chisel out of our life our moments of happiness. We're trying to influence everything else, thinking that if we can just change the world and change the laws and change the rules and change the people and, change everything else, we can experience happiness and fulfillment. But that's not exactly what the Buddhist teachings are really telling us. They're telling us that, no, it's something that you change interior to your own mind. The interior of your own being, the extraordinary, remarkable capacity of your human life, even though the roots are submerged and entrenched in this mud of ordinary hope and fear and needs and disappointments, there is an unfolding of complete, amazing perfection that is the true accomplishment of a human life. Not perfection somewhere else. Not perfection by changing everything outside in the world, but a perfection by understanding how to utilize the life through your own mind and heart to unfold this perfection that comes from deep within. At first, it's sort of, it's a lovely symbol, I think. It's especially when you understand what the art is showing you then. The art is showing you a kind of revelation that is experienced by great masters and great meditators of a view of the world in a different manner than we generally see the world. It's not like another place or a different time. It's kind of a different way of looking. And the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and the great masters are exposing to us, first of all, that the way that we're looking at things is maybe not the best way. Because we don't recognize the potential of the bloom of the flower. Instead, we're just trying to make the mud work. We're just trying to make the mud an improvement to the mud. We're trying to make an improvement in our lives. But the conditions of that mud are affecting us one way or the other all the time, as we are bound by time. We have past, present, and future. That's a lot of mud, past, present, and future. We don't understand the parameters of our own mud. Scientifically, we measure it, we analyze it, we do everything we can to kind of know the mud better and feel that we could be in a better way about mud if we just understood it better. But the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and the great masters are showing something different about the mud. In essence, the mud isn't really different than the flower. It looks different, like one is down below and one is up above. But if you really understood the whole thing more completely, you would understand they're not really different at all. They are the same thing. So the mud and all the challenges and issues that we face with the failings and the miseries of our ordinary challenges of life are in themselves bloomable. We think that it's two different things, like how it is and how it could be or might be. But our understanding of how it is creating a separation between the roots and the flower. We're creating a separation all the time as unenlightened beings. We have the challenge of habit patterns and misunderstandings about our reality. And so, therefore, we pick and choose. We pick this one and we choose against that one. But the root and the flower aren't different. They're the same. In Buddhism, we call this the great sameness. Great, as in capital G, with extraordinary qualities, the great sameness. And for us as unenlightened beings, the way we see the differences. We see the otherness of the root and the flower. We even can reject the mud and the root and only long for the flower, but you can't have the flower without the root. That's not happening. So what Buddhism is pointing out, first of all, for almost all of us, is something we're doing wrong, that there's a mistake. And not that the Buddha is judgmental about it. Oh, these people, what are they thinking? No, it's not like that. It's more like ke pena, compassion. What are you thinking? The root and the flower aren't different. But how do you overcome that sort of way of looking at things? So it seems like everybody else has perfection or good fortune or happiness, and there's little old you with like, I don't know, here I am with my bucket of mud. What's wrong with me that I can't have what these lovely other people have? And the Buddha is pointing out, look, this is why suffering happens. Suffering happens because we don't understand what our own mind creates. We don't understand that our own mind isolates into subject and object. Our own mind is constantly picking and choosing what we want versus what we don't want, and who we really think we are to choose. So we don't even understand that we are the flower. Instead, we create a fictitious sense of self that chooses, accepts and rejects. And as a result of that acceptance and rejection applied to the whole way of understanding the world, we create, so much confusion and delusion. And it can't produce the true freedom of the non-divided flower. It can't produce that because it's always pushing away or trying to get. And the Buddha called these the poisons of the mind. He said the poisons of our mind, first is ignorance. We don't understand what's happening. We don't realize it's a flower. It's the flower. It's the wholeness of a great truth. We don't understand that. And so in that ignorance, we're pushing and pulling, trying to get what we want out of the mud, trying to turn the mud into something that we can live with. And that makes perfect sense. And we're not alone in that. But the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas and the great masters are clarifying this with us through the teachings. And they're saying, look, that won't work. The pushing and pulling thing won't work. The lack of understanding the true nature of things won't work either, because then you can't really manage that to the true fulfillment of cessation of suffering and fulfillment in enlightenment. Because the pushing, pulling thing has got you all mixed up and frustrated. And then we die. And we didn't get to the possibility of realizing the true nature of our mind and its qualities and its radiance. In the middle of the mud, the qualities and the radiance, not somewhere else, not something different, but something better understood and better managed. And through that management, we call that the path. Through that path of adjusting our own mind, we can bloom. All beings have this perfection. And yet, we're confused and mixed up and disoriented. And so therefore, instead, we just create greater and greater and greater isolation and suffering. Not only you and me, but all beings do this until they are able to change their own mind. Now, if you think about that, the job is changing your own mind. Not many can do that. Honestly, even Buddhist people, they're not changing their own mind. They're still trying to change everybody else. They're still trying to change everything in the world. So it's a challenge and a remarkable, auspicious occurrence that you could listen and learn and understand that the job the Buddha is presenting with all these colors and images is that you have to change your own mind. Changing your own mind is what allows the true qualities of your mind to show. And that changes your whole world. Changing your mind changes your world. Because the world you get is the world your mind detects. So then the challenge is understanding what's really the mud of our own mind that we are trying to make work. And we kind of have to understand that there's no option but to utilize the story that you've got. It's not like you're going to take all that mud out of the pond and put something different there. It's your life. It's your life that is your path to realize the non-divided nature of the qualities of your being. It's not a different life, like a life I don't have to work, or a life I don't have to have children, or I can shave my head and become a monk or a nun, or I can get rich, or I can divorce this person. All I need is my neighbor's wife, and I'm going to be fine. All these ideas are understandable that we would think in those ways, but they all have collateral results. They produce problems. The first problem that we have is ignorance. And what ignorance produces for us, as we start there. We don't understand everything. We start there with ignorance. Even if you're a real smart guy, or you're, the best student in your class, or maybe you're running the class, if you're carrying the idea that you are I, you are confused. That's not who you are. That's an idea. I am, is an idea. It's not a fact. It happens and it seems to be who we are. We don't even really question it. But because of this, we are lonely. We're lonely. We are isolated. We are captive within a small understanding of our own being. And we have named it, and we don't even question it anymore. I am. And I am who, I am what, I do this, I do that, I go here, I do that, I go there. I like, I don't like, I want, I don't want. Don't worry, he keeps up. I is very busy. And it's called ignorance. Generally, from our approach as worldly people, all we're looking for is self-esteem. We just want to feel good about ourselves. That's really what we think will make us happy, if we just feel good about ourselves. So what do I have to do to feel good about myself? And what I does is needs, because something's missing. Always, if you look back at I, you see something missing. Because I needs. Even when you think, no, I don't need any of this, all this crap, I don't need all this, you're still needing to not have that crap. Need is running everything here. In one way or another, need is running everything. And who is subject to need is I. And when the teachings threaten I, it's very interesting. Because usually we think, if I can just be happy, if I can just be okay with myself, I'm going to be fine. And almost the worst thing that could happen to you would be that. Because if you were perfectly happy with yourself, you would just be falsely content. And if somebody bothers you there, like they rain on your parade, you get really angry. Like, don't mess up my happy. Because it isn't possible for I to sustain its happiness. It's always impermanent. So the pursuit of happiness, and worse, the gaining of happiness, can just be the worst for us. Because the true solution isn't in the success and the happiness of I, it's in the freedom from I. But, we go. I can almost hear you. Well, then, what's left? What have I got then? I. What have I got? I always needing something. What have I got? If I don't have I, what have I got? Well, that is the big question. And the flower is the big answer. And if you can't get what you need, you get angry. You get manipulative. You get demanding. You get hurt. Oh, hurt. Because I can't have what I need. I need you to like me. Imagine how vulnerable I am if I need you to like me. I need you to notice me. I need you to like me more than anybody else. Then I can be happy, but I'm not happy. I'm always worried. I'm always worried because maybe that's not true. And that's the issue with I. It's not true. It's a process, but it's not true. It happens, but it's not authentically the true nature of who you are. It's just one of the things you do, which is compose the identity of I. And whoever does that, not just you, your mom, your dad, the dog, whoever does the I thing is always suffering. Because the best that I can do, I, is always impermanent. I cannot produce anything that is not subject to impermanence. And so, this is the compassion of the Buddha, to understand that I-bound beings are always going to suffer, not knowing who they are, and as a result, not understanding their world. And so the Buddha attained realization of the nature of the mind beyond I. That's what we call enlightenment. The nature of your mind beyond I. And yet we're very, very habituated to I. We really don't even question it. And if we do question it, it's like, what can I do better? Where can I go? What should my job be? You know, should I marry this person? Should I divorce this person? Should I do this or that? Trying for I to be happy. Trying for I to not be unhappy. And we're extremely busy and we're unsuccessful. That's the sad part about it all. Is that even if you get it all to work right, which is highly unlikely, it's impermanent. It fails. It collapses because it's built in ignorance. It cannot sustain and is not able to be the truth. And as a developer of collateral damage, it produces the conditions of birth, sickness, aging, and death. It produces the conditions of the poisons of the mind and karma and habit and isolation. We're trying to make the culprit the hero. That's very disappointing. So, the Buddha then spent a lot of time explaining to us why this culprit is not reliable. Because, for example, we don't quite believe it. We don't quite believe that I is a big problem. It seems like everybody else is doing it fine. We don't quite believe that there's something else or something more primary than I. Because to us, I feels primary. And it is secondary. That's a big piece of information that we get from the Buddha, that I is not primary, it's secondary. And the point of turning to the Buddha is that the Buddha is bringing that wisdom to us from what is primary. Wisdom is primary. Wisdom is not a concept. Wisdom doesn't fail. It's not impermanent. Wisdom is the true nature of your mind that presently we don't see because we're so caught and lost in the hope and fear about the mud, trying to make the mud of our life work. So we're not experiencing, though you have wisdom nature unconditionally, we're not experiencing it because our habit patterns have us looking the other direction. So the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas and the great masters spend a great deal of time explaining to us the problem of getting lost, what you can expect from being lost, what you can expect from I, where it will take you and what it will give you, so that you understand that it's not sufficient and it won't work. It's a little slow, this process. It takes time, and also we don't really quite believe it. So we're slow on the uptake of understanding that I is not a safe place for us in our own mind. But more than explaining what doesn't work, understanding that the Buddhist teachings are basically reductive. This is something I hope you can follow, because the Buddhist teachings don't make anything. They just remove misunderstanding. Because what you already have as the true nature of your mind is already perfect. It's just that we are mixed up and confused and looking the wrong way. Therefore, suffering happens. As a reductive path, the whole process is how do we remove and manage the collateral damage? How do we remove and manage not to create more collateral damage? And how do we expose what is already present and perfect? The flower. So basically, we all come to the Buddha Dharma different. All of us have our own lives. We have our own history. We have our own karmic stories. And it's not really a kind of one-size-fits-all sort of teaching. Although there are very basic principles to understand. For example, the Buddha suggested, because the Buddha didn't really make rules, the Buddha suggested if you don't want to be unhappy, then don't hurt or harm others, because that will produce collateral damage that will feel very painful for you. It's far worse, the results, than the cause. And so the Buddha said it's not worth it. Don't hurt or harm others with your body or your speech or your mind. So that's really a piece of advice you should take with you. Like, okay, what did the Buddha say to do? That's what the Buddha said to do. But more than that, the Buddha said, rather, instead, be helpful, be kind, be loving, be generous, be supportive. Make a virtue in your life towards others. That this will produce also a kind of collateral result. But that collateral result will be happier, more supportive, more helpful. That will work in your favor towards, easier conditions and support. Because as you are is what happens to you. So if you're aggressive and angry, what happens is the world becomes aggressive and angry. If you're generous and kind and loving, the world becomes generous and kind and loving. It might not be obvious at first, because we could have been aggressive and harmful for a long time before we try to be kind and loving. And so lots and lots and lots of causes have already been created, which then put us in a situation of experiencing the results of our actions. Like a seed looks small and insignificant to the tree that it produces and the fruit that it produces season after season is so much greater than the seed. And so the Buddha is saying every action that we make in our life with your body or your speech, what you say, what you insinuate, and what you think are seeds. Positive seeds produce positive results, and negative seeds produce negative results. The difference between positive and negative is harmful and helpful. Now that's pretty heavy. And the Buddha's not giving you rules here. He's just saying, if you don't want to suffer, don't plant those seeds, because those seeds produce suffering results. If instead you want support and well-being, plant the seeds that produce support and well-being. But the Buddha didn't stop there either. The key issue, the key advice is tame your own mind. That means the Buddha is considering your mind is wild. You're not in charge of what your mind is doing. The mind is wild, and how the mind is wild is with poisons of ignorance, attachment, aversion, pride, and jealousy. The mind is wild with these poisons. And they're not only those 5, there are actually more than 84,000 poisons of mind. And those poisons of mind, conjunct your actions, positive or negative, produce the collateral damage. Nossa. And so then, taming your mind means that you change the way you use the poisons of your own mind. You change the way you react to the karmic results of how you have used the poisons of your mind. You change the habitual tendencies of your own mind, and you conquer the division of your own mind. These 4 obscurations are what our job is in taming our own mind. And so the Buddha taught in different ways for people of different capacities. Some people, he taught, give it up, renounce it, turn away, don't do it. Just give it up. Stop. Like, stop. Full stop. Stop. And then by stopping and by instead being kind, you start to create causes and conditions that will benefit you. So this is called the Hinayana path of renunciation. You just give it all up. But there is not only that way, because giving it all up will certainly help you, but it's not going to help someone else. If you give up aggressive behavior and violence, that's going to help you. It looks like the Buddha was trying to help the other guy that you're hurting and harming, but not really. The Buddha was not trying to get everybody to play nice on the school ground. He was trying to help you, not create the planting of a seed that will make a lot of misery on the school ground for you. And so, yes, I'm not going to do that anymore. I mean, that's like, I give it up. I am not going to do that anymore. And yes, I'm going to be nice. That's going to help me. But what about your mom? What about your brother? It's not going to help them. So I imagine, my little old mind, I imagine somebody went to the Buddha and said, okay, I understand. I'm not going to do these bad things anymore. I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to only do nice things. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to do this. But what about my mother? My mother's not going to do this. And every thought, word, and action that my mother does is going to be a seed that's going to produce the trees of misery in her life and lifetimes to come. What about mom? What about my uncle? What about the politicians? What about Donald Trump? What about him? And it's not only him. The world is full of what abouts. And the Buddha taught differently for people who have that question. But what about everybody else? And the Buddha taught the path of love and compassion. The Buddha taught how to turn negativity, convert negativity and harmful actions into positive actions. Not for yourself, but for others. And this is called the path of the Mahayana, the greater vehicle, because it not only benefits you, it benefits all other beings. And then, I imagine, someone said to the Buddha, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be careful with my actions and abandon non-virtuous actions myself and do the best I can to be kind. And I'm going to do it for all beings, that not even one being would be left in the experience of suffering, and that every being could attain enlightenment. But my goodness, how long does this take? 16 lifetimes, 32 lifetimes, depending on how good you are at your practice of love and compassion, unconditional love and compassion. Not just loving who you want to love, but love and compassion for every being without exception throughout the limitlessness of all of time and space could take a while. And I imagine the Buddha said, oh yes, there is a fast way. That was for me. I said, okay. I want the fast way because I probably won't be able to be loving and compassionate good enough for long enough. So I need the fast way. And what the Buddha taught those people that have no patience or endurance for the long path, who are, I imagine, the kind of like Mario Andretti types who are going to go as fast as possible before the dogs can catch you. He taught the path of the Vajrayana. Vajrayana Buddhism is built upon liberating the poisons of mind. Not about abandoning the poisons of mind or even converting the poisons of mind. The Vajrayana is a path of liberating the poisons of mind in their own perfection. And it's the fast path. Now that's fast dependent upon you. If you are not a practitioner that is diligent or undistracted, or if you're not a practitioner that can be single-pointed about the path, it'll take time because it has to do the job. The job is changing your own mind. How fast can you change your own mind? It's not how fast you're going to race and you're going to get there before everybody else. It's not an external issue. people. This is about how serious you tend to your own mind to liberate your attachment and aversion and ignorance into its own wisdom nature that has never been missing, has never failed. Now, it's not easy to do. It requires very good teachers and very good methods. It requires investment of power and authority that you could literally use those methods. You can't just read Vajrayana Buddhism in a book. You have to have a teacher that will help you be able to literally conquer and liberate your attachment in your own perfect Buddha nature, your aversion in your own perfect Buddha nature, that you turn off the self-centeredness and the ignorance in your lifetime. Certainly, if not in this lifetime, which can be done, but it's really a very serious practitioner can do that. But if not in this lifetime, certainly at the moment of death. And so this kind of gives you an overview then of what this place is about. It's about that accomplishment of the lotus and using the methods that can accomplish that as quickly as possible in the course of your life. Understanding that you're not changing everybody else, you're changing your own mind to expose the true nature of your mind, which has always been perfect. So once a long time ago when I was translating for Chagdud Tulku Rinpoche in the United States, after a teaching like this, Rinpoche was always very generous at introducing the Buddha Dharma. Someone stood up, much to my irritation, because I was tired. I didn't want anybody to ask any questions. And this man asked Rinpoche, he said, "Well, all of this is very amazing, but what do I do?" And Rinpoche, he kind of leaned back and he kind of put his hands on his belly, like that. And he said, "Well, what I do," he said, "I try to sit on the top of the mountain of absolute truth and be inseparable with the sky and 360 degrees still and open awareness. But if for some moment or some reason a thought occurs in my mind, then I fall from that perfect seat at the top of the mountain. I quickly grab the steep cliffs and use the tools of the Vajrayana to climb straight back up in the realization of the liberation of the poisons of the mind. But if I should fall farther down the mountain, rolling and tumbling, down the mountain of ordinary hope and fear and ordinary concepts, and I start to roll on the grassy hills and catch myself there, I embrace the selflessness of love and compassion for all beings. And I climb again the mountain. But if I should fall even further than that, all the way down to the lowlands of the mountain. I embrace harmlessness and helpfulness in order to begin to recover the path. And if I should fall all the way to the ground, then I pray I don't dig a hole with my aggressive actions of body, speech, and mind. So for all of us, we are not perfectly seated at the top of the mountain of the true nature of our being. And wherever you find yourself in your training, that's where you're going. But no matter where you are on that mountain, you have to grab the path that is appropriate for where you are. The path of harmlessness, the path of helpfulness, the path of selflessness, the path of liberation of the poisons of the mind until their true nature, and the path of the great perfection, wherever you are. This is how Rinpoche said that he practiced. Throughout my many lives and until this moment, whatever virtue I have accomplished, including the merit generated by this practice, and all that I will ever attain, this I offer for the welfare of sentient being. May sickness, war, famine, and suffering be decreased for every being, while their wisdom and compassion increase in this and every future life. May I clearly perceive all experiences to be as insubstantial as the dream fabric of the night, and instantly awaken to perceive the pure wisdom display in the arising of every phenomena. May I quickly attain enlightenment in order to work ceaselessly for the liberation of all sentient beings. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas altogether, whatever kind of motivation you have, whatever kind of beneficial action, whatever kind of wishing prayers, whatever kind of omniscience, whatever kind of life accomplishment, whatever kind of benevolent power, and whatever kind of immense wisdom you have, then similarly I, who come in the same way to benefit being, pray to attain these qualities. At this very moment for the peoples and the nations of the earth, may not even the names disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. Rather may their moral conduct, merit, wealth, and prosperity increase, and may supreme good fortune and well-being always arise for them.